If you ever find yourself the last two people left in an office building late at night, and one of them suddenly locks the door behind you, you might want to check if they're up to something. I didn't, and, well, that's how I ended up stuck in the strangest and maybe best night of my life. So here's how it went down. I work at this mid-sized marketing agency downtown, and last Friday was one of those insane deadline days. Everyone else had bailed by 7, exhausted from the week, but me and Jamie were still plugging away. Jamie's that guy who sits in the cubicle right across from me. You know the type. Super chill, always a little sarcastic, but somehow, really good at what he does. He's got this easy smile and these eyes that somehow manage to be both mischievous and kind at the same time. I've been quietly crushing on him for months, though I'm pretty sure he didn't have a clue. Anyway, the office was basically empty except for us. The hum of the air conditioning and the occasional clack of keyboards was the only soundtrack. We were both working on the final pitch deck for a client, and honestly, I wasn't even paying that much attention to the work anymore. I was just watching Jamie, stealing glances whenever I thought he wasn't looking. Around 9:30, the cleaning crew started their rounds, flicking the lights off in the hallways, making the place feel even more deserted. Jamie stretched, stood up and said, "All right, I'm calling it. You good to finish up tomorrow?" I nodded, already feeling the relief of not having to stare at those slides another second. He grabbed his coat and headed to the exit, but then, right before he walked out, he paused, turned around, locked the door behind him, and said with this sly grin, "Guess that means we're stuck here for a bit." At first, I thought he was kidding. Just some weird joke. But then the silence hit. The door was definitely locked. No alarms sounded, no one else came in or out. Just us, alone, with the entire office building to ourselves. And suddenly, the whole night felt like it was about to turn into something way more interesting than a boring work overtime. Because locking the door wasn't the kind of thing someone does unless they want to shake things up. I looked up at Jamie, caught that little sparkle in his eyes, and something told me this wasn't just about staying late to finish work. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I should be excited or completely terrified. But either way, I was hooked. I shuffled my chair back from the desk, trying to play it cool, but inside, my heart was doing some kind of weird double-time rhythm. Jamie was standing by the door, leaning casually against the frame like this was some kind of secret clubhouse meeting, instead of a locked office after hours. So, I said, rubbing the back of my neck, "You're serious about this? Stuck here?" He shrugged, still grinning that damn grin. "Well, unless you have a magic key or superpowers, yeah, we're stuck." I laughed nervously, trying to shake off the sudden jolt of adrenaline. "Okay then, what's the plan? Should we call someone? Wait for security in the morning?" Jamie shook his head, his smile softening a bit. "Nah, I say we make the best of it. Hell, we've got the whole place to ourselves. No deadlines, no emails, no annoying coworkers asking for TPS reports." I raised an eyebrow. "You're really trying to convince me this is a good thing?" "Absolutely. Trust me." I glanced around the dimly lit office, the quiet hum of the building suddenly feeling less like a prison and more like a stage set for something unexpected. It was weird how locking a door changed everything. Suddenly, the usual fluorescent lights felt warmer, the space between us seemed smaller, and that casual, everyday guy sitting across from me felt like somebody I could actually talk to. Really talk to. "All right," I said, standing up and stretching. "I'm in. What do we do with our freedom then?" Jamie's grin went full-on mischievous now. "First, we get some actual light in here." "It's depressing." He wandered over to the supply closet and pulled out a couple of those little desk lamps. The soft glow immediately made the room feel cozier, like we'd created this tiny island of warmth in the middle of the cold office. I moved my chair closer to his and said, "So, what's the deal, Jamie? Why lock the door? You've got me curious." He shrugged again, but this time it was less casual, almost hesitant. "Honestly, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to see if you'd stick around. We spend all day in this fluorescent hell, barely exchanging more than a hey or a can you pass me that report I figured maybe if we were alone, things could be different. My stomach did this ridiculous flip. Different how? Jamie looked directly at me for the first time, eyes locking mine in a way that made all the noise in my head slow down. I don't know. Less work. More. I laughed, but it came out shaky. Us? Yeah, he said, stepping a little closer. Maybe it's dumb. Maybe I'm just tired. But I've wanted to ask you out for months, and I'm terrible at that stuff. Maybe locking the door was my weird way of making sure I don't chicken out. Suddenly, the room didn't feel big at all. I was hyper-aware of the space between us, of the way the light caught the edge of his jaw, the way his eyes searched mine like he was hoping I'd say yes. I swallowed hard and said, "You're not dumb. And you're definitely not the only one thinking about the same thing." He smiled, that genuine, soft kind that made my chest tighten. Good. Because if we're stuck here, I might as well make it the best night ever. We spent a few minutes just sitting there, some invisible tension hanging between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like we were both waiting for the right moment to cross that line. Then Jamie stood up and stretched dramatically. All right, Mr. Smooth, since we have the whole office, what do you want to do? I thought about it for a second, then said, how about we grab some of that terrible vending machine coffee and pretend we're on a break? His smile grew wider. Perfect. We wandered over to the vending area, the quiet of the building making every movement feel amplified. Jamie fiddled with the machine, finally getting 2 steaming cups of coffee, complete with that watered-down, bitter taste only office machines can produce. We grabbed a couple of chairs by the window and sat down, watching the city lights flicker outside. The night stretched out before us, vast and full of possibility. Jamie took a sip and sighed. You know, I never thought I'd say this, but being locked in here might be the best thing that's happened to me all week. I looked at him, feeling a weird mix of disbelief and hope. Me too. We talked about everything and nothing. Our dumb work stories, favorite movies, even the ridiculous nicknames some of our coworkers had. The conversation flowed easier than I expected, and it felt like we were peeling back layers of each other that no one else got to see. At some point, Jamie reached over and brushed a stray lock of hair from my forehead, fingers lingering just a second too long. My heart jumped and I caught my breath. See? He whispered, eyes glinting. Stuck here wasn't so bad after all. I smiled, feeling like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And honestly, I never wanted the night to end. But then, just when I thought things couldn't get more surreal, Jamie's phone buzzed on the table, shattering the bubble. He glanced at the screen, and his expression flickered for a split second, something unreadable crossing his face. Everything good? I asked, suddenly nervous. He hesitated, then shook his head. Yeah, just work stuff. Nothing we can do now. I nodded, but the mood had shifted. The locked door suddenly felt less like a playground and more like a reminder that reality was still waiting outside. But in that moment, as the city lights blinked behind us and the coffee grew cold, I realized something important. Sometimes the best moments come from the most unexpected places, even a locked office after hours with the guy you've been secretly dreaming about for months. And whatever happened next, I knew this night wouldn't be forgotten anytime soon. Jamie slipped his phone back into his pocket, but I could tell something was still nagging at him. I stared out the window for a moment, the city's glow sparkling against the dark sky, and then finally I asked, Hey, if there's something up you can tell me. I'm not just some work guy, you know? He looked over, surprised, maybe a little relieved. You really want to hear it? I nodded. Yeah, I'm tired of pretending we're just coworkers when it feels like there's more. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, the kind of move that's both casual and tells you he's wrestling with something. Okay, so there's this thing. I've been juggling some family stuff lately. My younger brother's been having some trouble, and it's been kind of a mess. I didn't want to dump it on you, or anyone really. Work's tough enough without adding personal drama. I felt a surge of warmth for him. It was easy to forget there was a whole life behind that steady smile. Thanks for trusting me with that, I said quietly. You don't have to carry that alone. Jamie gave me a small, grateful smile. Yeah, it's just been a lot. And tonight, locking the door, it was like I wanted to escape for a bit. Not just from work, but from all the noise in my head. I nodded, understanding more than I expected. We all need that sometimes. A break from everything. For a while, we just sat there in silence, the city lights flickering, as if encouraging us to be honest, to drop the walls. Then Jamie shifted, the playful spark returning. So what do you say we make a little adventure out of this? We're stuck here, right? Might as well explore. I raised an eyebrow. Explore? You mean like making a fort out of office chairs? He laughed. Hey, don't knock the chair fort. But yeah, something like that. Come on. Before I could protest, Jamie grabbed a handful of cushions from the break room sofa and a stack of empty boxes from the supply closet. We dragged them into the main area, rearranging the space until we had something resembling a makeshift hideout. It was ridiculous, childish even, but in a way that felt freeing. Sitting inside, shoulder to shoulder, the tension between us shifted into something softer, more intimate. Jamie looked at me, eyes warm and steady. You know, I always thought work crushes were just that, crushes. But maybe it's something more. Maybe it's about finding someone who gets you. I laughed softly. Yeah, the guy who steals your coffee and makes you lock yourself in an office after hours. He grinned. Guilty, the moment stretched, and I realized I wanted to close the distance to see if the feeling I had was real. My heart pounded as I leaned in. Our lips met, tentative at first, like testing the waters, then with more certainty. It was electric and familiar all at once, like this was the moment we'd both been waiting for without really knowing it. When we finally pulled back, breathless and smiling, Jamie whispered, "Worth getting locked in for?" I nodded. Absolutely. We stayed like that for a while, the world outside forgotten. Eventually, the quiet hum of the office felt like a cozy backdrop to something new, something real. But as much as I wanted that night to last forever, we both knew we'd have to face reality eventually. Still, whatever came next, locking that door had opened something I never expected, and I wasn't about to let it go. We stayed nestled in that makeshift fort for a while, just talking and laughing quietly, letting the night stretch out around us like something soft and new. It felt like a bubble, away from the usual grind of emails and meetings, and that endless sense of what comes next. I was surprised at how easy it was to talk to Jamie when it was just the two of us. No distractions, no awkward glances across cubicles or half-finished sentences. At some point, Jamie leaned back against the wall, running his fingers along the edge of a box like he was weighing something in his mind. Then he looked over at me, eyes serious for the first time since we'd started this whole thing. You know, I've been thinking maybe we've been missing out, not just on our own chance, but on something real. I blinked, caught off guard by the sudden shift. What do you mean? He smiled softly, like admitting a secret. I mean, I don't want to just be okay with this. I want to see where it goes. With you. God, did my heart just skip a beat or two? I swallowed hard, feeling like I was standing on the edge of something huge. Me too, I said, voice barely above a whisper. Jamie reached out then, taking my hand in his with this gentle confidence that left no room for doubt. His fingers were warm, and the touch made the little hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I felt the world shrink down to that moment. The two of us in a dimly lit office, surrounded by cardboard boxes, and the quiet hum of a city that never truly sleeps. Before I could say anything else, a sudden noise broke the spell. The elevator pinged, and the lights in the hallway flickered on. I jumped up, heart racing, and Jamie followed, looking just as startled. Shit, he muttered, checking his phone. They must have come back for something. I glanced at the door, the lock still firmly in place. We're still locked in? Jamie nodded, his brow furrowed. Yeah, the cleaning crew's probably done for the night, but the maintenance guy must have come back. That ping was the elevator arriving. I ran a hand through my hair, suddenly feeling the weight of the night settling back on my shoulders. So what now? We can't just stay here forever. Jamie gave me a look that was equal parts amused and determined. We don't have to, but maybe, before we figure out how to get out, we should ask ourselves if we're really ready to. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but intrigued. Ready for what? He stepped closer, his eyes locked on mine like he was making a silent promise. Ready to take a chance. On us. For a moment, I just stared at him, feeling like the whole office around us had faded away. Then slowly I nodded. Yeah, I think I am. The elevator doors slid open, and a maintenance guy poked his head out, flashlight in hand. He looked confused to see the lights on, and two guys sitting in a fort made of office supplies. Hey, sorry, he said, glancing between us and the locked door. We had a system glitch. The doors got stuck. I'm here to let you out. Jamie stood, holding the door open with a grin. Well, we were just finishing up a late-night brainstorming session. The guy laughed, and I realized how absurdly perfect the whole situation was. Two people stuck in a locked office, making forts and sharing secrets, and now about to step back into the real world. As we walked out together, the cool night air hit my face, and I felt something shift inside me. Whatever was waiting outside, deadlines, awkward small talk, everyday life, it didn't matter as much anymore, because I knew that somewhere in that locked office, in the quiet hours when the world slowed down, I'd found something real. And I wasn't about to let it go. We stepped out of the office with the maintenance guy behind us, muttering something about a system reset and promising to double-check the locks tomorrow. The hallway felt impossibly bright after the soft, cozy glow of our cardboard fort, and the buzz of the building waking up again made my pulse quicken. Jamie caught my eye as we approached the lobby. There was that same mix of nervousness and something else. Hope? Maybe? Flashing across his face. So, I said, trying to sound casual but feeling anything but, what now? We just pretend none of this happened? He laughed, a little breathless and honest, and shook his head. No way. I don't want this night to be some weird secret we bury. I want to see where this goes. No more locking doors to force us together, you know? I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my chest. Yeah, I'm with that. But, maybe next time we don't get stuck in an office to figure it out? Deal, Jamie said, stepping closer. So, coffee, dinner, something that doesn't involve being trapped? Before I could answer, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a message from my best friend. Did you survive the office apocalypse? Heard something about a lock-in. I laughed aloud, and Jamie bumped my shoulder playfully. Guess we made headlines. We stepped outside, the cool night air wrapping around us like a fresh start. The city was quieter now, but alive in its own way, the distant honk of a cab, the soft hum of streetlights. I glanced over at Jamie, suddenly aware of how close we were standing. So, I said, voice a bit shaky but steady, about that dinner? Jamie's grin deepened. I was hoping you'd say that. We walked away from the building together, leaving the locked door and the night that changed everything behind us. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for sure. Sometimes, the best things happen when you're stuck in the most unexpected places. We walked side by side down the quiet city street, the night air cool against my skin and the soft glow of street lamps casting long shadows. Jamie's hand brushed mine as we passed a coffee shop that was just about to close, and I caught my breath without meaning to. So dinner, I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though my heart was doing cartwheels. Any ideas? I mean, now that we're officially not stuck in an office anymore. He smirked, that familiar mischievous glint in his eyes. There's a little diner a few blocks from here. Nothing fancy, but they do a killer burger and bottomless coffee. Perfect for two guys who just survived their own version of an escape room. I laughed, the sound lighter than it had been all night. Sounds perfect. We cut through a small park on the way, the trees rustling softly in the breeze. It felt surreal, wandering around like this with Jamie, the guy I'd spent months stealing glances at across the office, now walking beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him. So, Jamie said after a moment, eyes fixed on the pavement, what made you stick around tonight? I mean, when I locked the door, you could have just left, right? I shrugged, though a smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me thought maybe this was the chance I'd been waiting for, even if I wasn't sure what it was yet. And part of me just didn't want to be alone in that big, empty office. He looked over at me then, a softness in his gaze that caught me off guard. That's pretty much exactly how I felt. We fell into a comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't feel awkward, but like two people finally catching their breath after holding it too long. By the time we reached the diner, it was nearly midnight. The neon open sign buzzed softly against the darkened street, promising warmth and greasy food. Inside, the place was almost empty, except for a few tired-looking night owls nursing coffee cups and a couple of waitresses cleaning tables. We slid into a booth by the window, the vinyl seats squeaking under us. Jamie ordered 2 burgers and, true to his word, asked for bottomless coffee. The waitress gave us a knowing smile and left us with the menus, which we barely glanced at. "So," I said, leaning forward on the table, "what's something people at work don't know about you?" Jamie grinned, drumming his fingers against the table like he was weighing his options. I'm terrible at karaoke, but I'm always the first to volunteer. There's something about singing off-key that's just freeing," I laughed. "No way. I would have pegged you as the quiet and serious type." "Ha! That's just my work mask," he said, winking. "What about you?" I thought for a second. "I'm a total sap when it comes to old movies. Like, I'll cry at just about any romantic scene, no matter how cheesy." Jamie's eyebrows shot up. "Really? You don't look like the type." I shrugged, feeling my cheeks warm. Guess I'm full of surprises. Our food arrived, and for a little while, we ate in comfortable silence. The kind of silence that feels good, not forced. Between bites, Jamie kept stealing glances at me, those eyes holding something I still wasn't quite ready to put into words. After dinner, we lingered over the last cup of coffee, the diner's hum wrapping around us like a blanket. Jamie finally broke the quiet, voice low. "You know, I was nervous about tonight, about locking the door and all. But I'm glad I did, because, well, I think I like you. More than just a coworker." My heart pounded, and I smiled, feeling a rush of relief and excitement. "I like you too, Jamie. Way more than I thought was possible." He reached across the table, taking my hand in his. The warmth of his touch sent a thrill through me, and I squeezed back, feeling like maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. We stepped outside into the cool night again, the city quieter now, the world feeling a little bigger and a little smaller all at once. Jamie looked over at me, grinning. "Same time next week?" "No locking doors necessary," I laughed. "Definitely, but maybe we leave the office unlocked this time." As we walked off into the night, hands still intertwined, I realized that sometimes the strangest nights lead to the best beginnings, and I was more than ready to see where this one would take us. The walk back to the subway was quiet, but comfortable, that easy kind of silence where words aren't needed because the moments between them say everything. Jamie's hand was still warm in mine, and I caught myself thinking how natural it felt, like it had been meant to happen all along. As we reached the station entrance, Jamie paused and looked over at me with that same soft smile. I've got to admit, part of me was worried about this, about us. What if things got weird at work? Or what if I messed it all up? I shook my head. Honestly, I was scared too. But I'm glad you locked that door. It forced us out of the usual routine and into something real. He chuckled, eyes sparkling. "You make it sound so dramatic." "Well, it kind of was," I said, grinning. "Locked in an office, building a fort, confessing feelings over bad vending machine coffee. It's not your everyday date." Jamie laughed, the kind of genuine laugh that makes your chest warm. "True, though I'm hoping our next date involves less cardboard and more normalcy." I winked. "Deal, but I'm not sure I can promise no forts in the future." He raised an eyebrow playfully. "Good, I like forts." The train arrived just then, and we stepped inside together. The car was mostly empty, the quiet hum of the wheels on the tracks filling the space between us. Jamie slid in next to me, and for a moment, we just sat, catching our breaths after an intense evening that felt like the start of something brand new. "Hey," Jamie said softly, "do you ever think about what comes next? Like, beyond work and deadlines?" I looked out the window at the dark tunnels, the city blurring into streaks of light. Yeah, more than I'd like to admit, actually. I guess I've been stuck in the same pattern for a while. Work, sleep, repeat. It's exhausting. Jamie nodded. Same here, but tonight felt like a break from that. Like maybe there's more to look forward to. I turned to him then, eyes locking. More than just the mundane. More than just pretending. He smiled, that slow, genuine smile that made me think maybe we were both ready to stop pretending. As the train pulled into my stop, I stood up reluctantly, not wanting the night to end. Jamie grabbed my hand, his grip steady and reassuring. "Let me walk you home," he offered. I hesitated for only a second before nodding. I'd like that. The streets were nearly empty, the city settling into its late-night rhythm. We walked side by side, the silence between us comfortable and filled with unspoken promises. When we reached my building, Jamie stopped and faced me. "So what now?" I smiled, feeling bold in a way I hadn't earlier. "Now, I ask you out properly. No locks, no fort building required." He laughed. "I'd like that." Then, without thinking too much, I leaned in and kissed him, a soft, tentative kiss that quickly deepened as the night air wrapped around us. When we finally pulled apart, Jamie rested his forehead against mine. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" I nodded, heart pounding. "Yeah, it really is." We said goodnight with promises to text, to meet again soon, to not let this slip away. As I watched him walk down the street, the world seemed full of possibilities for the first time in a long time. Sometimes, I thought, getting locked in an office wasn't the worst thing that could happen. Sometimes, it's exactly what you need. The next few days felt like waking up from a dream that you don't want to forget. Jamie and I slipped into a rhythm that was easy and real. Texts filled with inside jokes, stolen moments by the coffee machine, and lunches where the conversation stretched beyond work stuff into hopes, fears, and the little things that make someone who they are. We didn't rush it. There was no need. That night locked in the office wasn't a grand gesture. It was just two people finally seeing each other clearly, beyond the daily grind and safe routines. And that made all the difference. One evening, a week after our escape room adventure, Jamie and I found ourselves sitting on the roof of the office building, sharing a thermos of coffee and watching the city lights blink on as dusk settled in. It was quieter up there, away from the buzz of the city, a perfect place to be honest. "I never thought a locked door would lead me here," Jamie said, his voice soft, eyes reflecting the fading light. I smiled, reaching for his hand. Sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places. He squeezed my hand gently, then turned to look at me with that same mix of nervousness and warmth. "I'm glad we took the chance. I'm glad you stayed." "Me too," I admitted. "It's scary, letting someone in. But with you, it feels right." Jamie's smile grew, and in that moment, it wasn't about grand declarations or dramatic turns. It was about a quiet understanding that what we had was real, worth holding on to, and worth fighting for. We sat there a while longer, letting the city hum beneath us and the night wrap around our shared silence. It was simple, but it was everything. That locked door had been a beginning, a reminder that sometimes, to find connection, you just need to be brave enough to stay when the world wants you to leave. And maybe, just maybe, that's how love starts. Not with fireworks or perfect timing, but with two people willing to take a chance. Together.